Good morning, everyone. Now, the person who is going to give the talk, we all know him. He has already taken the three sessions. In the first session, he talked about the research design and the problem formulation, what are the sampling method and what are the data collection technique. In the second session, he gives us idea on the qualitative data collection like the structure and the unstructured data, survey on the data, what are the different tools for survey. He focus on the group, unstructured interview and the observation technique. In his third session, he has elaborated us in the secondary data and big data sources. What are the importance and the challenges of using the secondary data? Now, it's time to hear from the Dr. Singh about the today's session on topic the qualitative analysis using the content analysis, thematic analysis and NVivo. So may I please request Dr. Singh to take this session. So please.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. Uh, I think most of you would have attended the first session of the day. There you learned about parametric test or non-parametric test, right?
Yes, sir.
Can anyone tell me, like, yes? Okay, can anyone tell me, like, what do we mean by parametric or non-parametric test? So as to the reason for that, in last class, when I was taking the hands-on session, I showed you how to use R to do the initial data processing. Today, what we are going to do, we are going to actually do the hands-on on content analysis and thematic analysis. And we will be using again R because R has been introduced to all of you and we have already taken one session on R. So what I'm going to do is like initial 5-10 minutes, I will complete the data cleaning process, the file we were using the last session, because I was talking about handling the outliers, which is very much important. Any type of, be it qualitative or quantitative analysis. And then we will go to the content analysis part and thematic analysis. So I will request everyone to kindly open your R Studio. And if you have that particular file, which I had shared with all of you, I would request you to open that file also. See what happens whenever you're using any type of programming or language, there are some initial barrier. I'm kind of trying to show you some small steps, small codes, so as to break that barrier. It will help you to use RStudio to lot of analysis. What happens? NVivo is there for qualitative analysis, but that is a paid software. You can easily use R. Once the barrier is broken, you don't have to do actually any coding. You can just search it, ask the chat GPT. But thing is that you need to know how to use those code, how to change as per your requirement. And that is what we are doing here. Anyway, I will talk about handling the outlier first. There are different way of handling the outlier, and then we will move to the content analysis. So these code I've already told you. Uh, I'm running with the shortcut of the keyboard, Control or Enter, whichever line you are in. Just press Control Enter. So I uploaded two of the packages. Now this particular line, read any file in your current working directory. This is the file name. If the file is in some other directory, you can bring that copy or paste that file to your current working directory. Instead of using this symbol, as I've already said, you can use equal to symbol also. Now I've read the file. That file data is stored in a variable named df, a data file variable named df. This particular command will help you to view that. I'm not going into all those details. What I'm going to do is I'll straight away go through the all these commands. We did draw this histogram and all. We saw the box plot. Now, what is happening here? We are kind of defining the quartile. How many of you have understand about the quartile of the data? As you would have, give me a minute. This quartile range is what it does. It kind of divide your data into four equal group. Suppose you have a 100 number of observation, it will divide the first 25, and wherever the value of first 25 ends, that will be your first quartile. Similarly, second, the median, third quartile, and these three together kind of divide your data into four equal parts. Why we are doing that? In this box plot, you can see 0 and 5. These are the first and third quartile. Your data is kind of distributed between 0 and 2, but there are some outlier at 6 and 7. And this is your distribution of the uh, this coverage, number of days a month without coverage. So these are like, we have gone through the data. We know like for these many days, the subscriber of a particular mobile phone company didn't have network coverage. So this one observation at 6 or number of days as 6 and another as 7 are the outlier. Now, how do we handle it? There are different way. We can simply drop it. But what happens when you drop these values? You will lose all other data for those customers. So generally, when the number of observations are very less, you do not want to drop those observations. Then how you will use it? You will use it using these methods. And there are different methods. I'm using this particular method. I will just explain what is happening here. This particular line of code is finding the first and third quartile. This one is putting cap. Like my minimum value will be capped at 5% and maximum at 95%. These cap you can use as per your problem, as per the industry in which you are doing the research. It is not to be 5%, 95%. So what happens is like any value outside by this third quartile will be capped to the 95th% of the value in the data or observation. And similarly, the lowest value, any value lower than the first quartile will be capped at 0.05 percentile. So if I have something as extreme as, suppose my first quartile is value is 25 itself. If I have some negative value, what it will do, it will cap it to the this 5% value. I will give you a better example. Now look at this particular data. Suppose I have these many observation or data. So I can clearly see this minus 22, 50 and 100 are my outliers, because most of the values are around 1 and 4 or 1 and 5. So what I will do is like I will apply that particular function which I have defined above. This particular function will define the quartile of these data, and then generally what happens, interquartile range is the difference between third quartile and second quartile. And this particular formula will help me to find the cap value, 95% and 5%. This particular whole process is called Winsorized or Winsorization. If you look at the data again at the console, if you look at the console, what has happened is like 1 has remained 1, minus 22 has capped to minus 8.2. This 50, which was beyond third kind of quartile, is now capped to the 95% of the data, like 70. Similarly, 100 is also capped to 70. If I had something like 200, that would have again capped to 70 only. So that is how it capped the value and kind of reduce the variance in your observation, make sure whatever conclusion you are making from the sample is true to the or is near to the true value. Okay. Now I'm used the same function to show you how it will change the value we were seeing in the churn wallet data. Now this is the box plot of the number of calls made by the consumer every month. We can see the data is distributed between around 100 to some 250, but we have lots of the outlier beyond third quartile. Now what if I use that particular function to handle the churn or outlier and again plot the data? We'll see most of the outlier has been handled. Still I have one outlier, only one outlier left, but most of the outlier has been handled. And now I can do whatever analysis, whatever statistical tool I want to use on this particular data. This is the process of data preparation I'm talking about here. You can use the statistical tool only when the data is prepared. Now there is only one observation. I can easily drop this one if I'm not able to handle this one also using this particular method. And we have a number of methods. If we discuss that later in some other courses, we can do that. For now, we'll use this particular method only. Not sorry. Now look at this charge, like amount charge every month for the other customers. So we can see there are a lot of observation beyond this third quartile. Again, I will use the same function to handle the outlier and again plot the box plot. So most of the kind of outlier have been handled here also. Similar thing we will do on this number of coverage wala thing. Here, all those outliers have been completely handled. I don't have any outlier here anymore. Now, how do we handle with the NA value? Suppose there is some NA value. I will quickly say that and just leave. It all depends whether that variable is continuous, categorical, and that is how you handle it. If it is a continuous variable, you can go with the mean median. In categorical variable, generally what we do, we go with the mode wala method to fill that NA value. So the rest of the code is handling the NA value. Once you are done with handling the outlier, handling the NA values, you are done with the cleaning of the data. Okay. ठीक है. Let's come back to the today's topic, that is content analysis, qualitative analysis. I will share the PPT. Wait a second. Okay, more or less all of you understand what is qualitative analysis, right? There's no chat box कहाँ पे? Okay. I'm not seeing any message here also. ठीक है. See, I need some interaction, but ठीक है. If you're not comfortable, I'm completely fine. So the slide says exploring and understanding the meaning, experience, or perspective within text or non-numerical data. Non-numerical data can be your visual data, images, videos, can be anything. Any data which is not numeric, if you're analyzing, understanding, or trying to figure out the meaning behind that, those can be qualified as qualitative analysis. Okay. I think more all of you will be well versed with the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Why do we use qualitative analysis? Explore complex issues, phenomena, like the Tesla car. At the real time, they analyze the image, understand where the car has to go, if there is a problem, if there's somebody coming from behind, so they use brake. All these decisions are based on the qualitative data or on real time. So those issues are very complex, not straight away. Okay. When you generate new theories or build hypotheses, this qualitative analysis will help you. Sometimes what happens, it's not straight away easy to build the hypothesis itself. You're trying to solve a particular business problem or any societal issues. For building the hypothesis itself, you will have to do qualitative analysis. When you do, the third one is understanding the context and perspective. Any phenomena, you're trying to understand the context of that or the perspective, you're trying to get in-depth perspective or context, qualitative analysis will help you do that. Also, to provide rich and detailed description of those phenomena. I think there should not be any doubt here. This is a brief comparison between qualitative and quantitative analysis. Generally, the focus of qualitative analysis will be to find the meaning and interpretation. But in quantitative, you will have numerical data, you will use statistical analysis. Data type in qualitative will be text, image, audio, video, versus in quantitative you will have numbers and statistics. Qualitative, the sample size are generally on smaller side, but that is not the case anymore. But generally it is on the smaller side. And the data may not be representative or does not require to be representative. Necessarily is requirement is not there. But in what happens in quantitative, the representation of the data is very much important, and the there will be large amount of data. Goal, qualitative, the goal is to understand or explore versus to measure something and to test some hypothesis. Qualitative research usually aim to test hypothesis, look at cause and effect, and make prediction like in experimental research, and answer questions such as how many, what, when. Qualitative research aims to understand and interpret social phenomena and interaction and answer questions such as why and how. Okay, I just remember one thing. Uh, in the first session today, when we were talking about parametric test, I think the very definition of parametric test is the normal distribution of the data, which is whatever data you're analyzing. In quantitative analysis, what happens? It is very much important to assume the data is normally distributed. When we have large amount of data, somehow that will be normally distributed. When the data or the sample size is very less, that data will be not normally distributed. That will be skewed, left skewed or right skewed. And there you use non-parametric test like chi-square and ANOVA and other chi-square test. Not ANOVA, ANOVA is again parametric test. So the parametric test, general parametric test are correlation, regression. If time permit, I will show you that how you can use a simple command to build the model, regression model, and test that in RStudio. So the quartile concepts come from the normal distribution of the data. तो आप थोड़ा सा उसको explore करेंगे तो we'll get to know about quartile. Those are not very difficult things and how we are handling the outliers. मुझे अभी याद आया तो I was just injecting in between the discussion of this qualitative versus quantitative. ठीक है. What are the sources of qualitative data? More or less, we all know. I will just quickly go through this. Free text response in survey, case studies, or you can crawl through social media, email, open-ended question. Any questionnaire, open-ended question, you will end up getting qualitative data. We have secondary data. The major source of secondary data, government source, or the Kaggle is there. You can get a lot of data there. Diaries, log, critical incident. These are some of the sources of qualitative data. Now look at coding. Can someone please tell me like what is the meaning of this coding in, especially in the case of qualitative data? Why? I request you to at least type on the chat box.
Mama.
Okay, you think about that. Give me a minute. I will be back in a minute. Huh? Okay. It is a process of assigning label or code to the data. It is layman's or language we can say to use a particular system for identifying things. Okay. More or less, that is what we call coding. But anyway, I will give some formal definition. Like coding in obviously in qualitative data, it does happen with quantitative data also. So we assign certain labels, give some names to a segment of data of like interview text, some observation or image to identify pattern, theme, meaning, or the categories. We do that with the image also. We do that with the text, transcription of interview, a lot of other things. So generally what we do in coding, sometimes we break down a bigger or text data into a smaller data or in a manageable part and give each part a descriptive tag, which kind of represent the core meaning of that particular segment of the data. And why we are doing that? It helps us to organize and make sense of large amount of qualitative data. I will give you a simple example. Suppose you are conducting interview with the student and their experience with online learning. And here is a statement from that particular interview. I really liked being able to do the coursework on my own time. It was so much easier to fit it around my job and other commitments. However, sometimes I felt a bit isolated because I didn't see my classmates in person. Now, just imagine this was the statement which you kind of recorded during the interview and transcribed it later. And now you are trying to manage this particular statement. Now, how the coding will happen? You will understand the overall meaning, break that particular long statement into a smaller part. Like, I really like being able to do the coursework on my own time. One part. It was so easier to fit it around my job and other commitments. Another part. However, sometimes I felt a bit isolated. Again, we can see the first two were more on the positive side. And the third one is that student is feeling isolated, not positive, because I didn't see my classmate in person. Fine. Now, how I will do the coding? And just give an example. I really like being able to do the coursework on my own time, flexibility, own pace. That is how I will do the coding of this particular segment of the statement. And the second one, I can fit it around my job and other commitments, convenience or work-life balance, or whatever comfortable way of you kind of doing coding. It will like differ from person to person. Now, however, sometimes I feel a bit isolated. Now you will code that with something called like isolation, lack of social interaction, or something like that. Now the first part of the statement was because I didn't see my classmates in person. Now you will use something like uh, no physical kind of contact or in-person contact, lack of face-to-face interaction, and that is how you will start coding the text. Or this is how we do a coding of any qualitative data. So it helps us to identify key concepts within the student experience: flexibility, convenience, isolation, lack of face-to-face interaction. These are the key concepts or key trend you will see in the majority of the interviews. Okay. Now, as you will start coding more and more of the interviews, you will start seeing there are pattern emerging in the code. You will obviously observe the flexibility part will be there, the convenience part will be there, in absence of in-person contact part will be there, or different challenges of or advantage of online kind of learning. So coding is where the coding can be the you can say that is the initial step of a part of making sense out of the data labeling. Uh, I have an important work. Give me a minute. I have to share some document with somebody. Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay, sir. Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Okay, actually, I'm not teaching right now. Give me a minute. I'm sharing something with somebody, some office guys here. Give me
Okay,
a
sir.
few
Okay,
minutes.
sir.
Sorry for the disturbance. Official council. कहाँ पे थे हम लोग? We were talking about the coding, right? ठीक है. That is how generally the meaning of coding, and that is how do coding. Uh, Now let's go to the next slide. अच्छा, this slide only. Different coding approaches are there: descriptive coding, in vivo coding, process coding. Any idea of those different type of coding? चलो ठीक है. Uh, I will give some brief idea. Then, while doing the hands-on, I will discuss all those things. What happened? Generally, the code will emerge. Sometimes, what will happen? The code will emerge from the data itself. That you will call kind of inductive coding. As a coder, what will happen? You will use some predetermined code based on the area in which you are doing research, or the topic, or the subject, or the problem you're solving. Suppose I'm solving a marketing problem. I will have a set of predefined code, and I will use those code to code my qualitative data. And there are a lot of predefined codes in different fields. But you are comfortable using that. There are cons and pros of all the different coding methods. And then there will be some coding where you kind of, like I gave the example, you went through the statements, you started doing the coding, and the coding emerged from there. You kind of, if you understand the concept of grounded theory, like most of the qualitative research should kind of lead to a theorization of something. So you kind of did your in-depth research or qualitative research where you build your own coding method. You theorize that if you're doing some research in the field of suppose uh, a network service provider, these are the code you can use it. These are the new codes I have developed during my research. That is the meaning of ground truth theory. You developed a kind of new uh, thematic analysis for qualitative research. हम तो इसको देखेंगे how we do this. So generally your automatic, manual, and something is semi-automatic. You interfere with the automatic theory, coding of the qualitative data. Suppose interview is there, you are using predefined coding, but at the same time, you are doing in-depth analysis and uh, augmenting the existing uh, coding system. And from the same concept, like in analytics also, or in pragmatic, non-pragmatic test also, we call something like supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So automatic coding of text will be like unsupervised learning. Data itself will say, okay, fine, these are the code present in the data. Supervised learning is when you are interfering. You are saying, okay, these are the codes being used. We are using these predefined codes, or I'm going through the text myself. I need an in-depth analysis. I have limited data or qualitative data. I have done like 50, 60 interviews. I can go through all those interviews and I can kind of do a semi-automatic, use the existing one and kind of create my own few codes. ठीक है. Now we'll come to the content analysis part. Any idea? Any one of you like what is this content analysis? ठीक है. As you can see the definition, this particular research method is used to identify, categorize, and analyze the presence of meaning and relationship of certain words, theme, and concept within qualitative data. One thing you have to remember, this is kind of somewhat similar to the definition of qualitative analysis because these are the content analysis and thematic analysis are kind of different way of using qualitative analysis. So you'll find it similar to each other. But when we will do the hands-on, it will become much more clear how content analysis are different from thematic analysis. So this particular in content analysis, what we do, we mostly or most of the time what we will do in content analysis, we will break down the complete sentence into words. We'll remove the stop words like is, are, the, all those words, and then try to figure out or categorize them in different kind of themes or concept. We identify, categorize, and then analyze. We'll go through the step of content analysis also later. What is the purpose of content analysis? To systematically describe and quantify the content of communication. First, we try to describe and then quantify the content of communication. Quantify in the sense, we do quantification also in content analysis. So, the content analysis can be both qualitative and quantitative. And when we will do the hands-on session, we will mostly focus on the qualitative part only. Clear? Any question till here?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay. So what happens? The question should come to your mind like we have text data, how we are doing content analysis, that we in qualitative manner. The data itself was qualitative. ठीक है. What happens? Suppose when we do the quantification in content analysis, we break down the word. I will give a simple example to make you understand how this what I was saying. Quantitative part of the data analysis. We would have seen a lot of word cloud in many of the research, right? Word cloud देखा है आप लोगों ने, right? Anyway, I'll show you one word cloud today using simple example. So word cloud is like the quantification part of content analysis. You will identify which are the terms used in most of the sentences, and then as per the frequency, you increase or decrease the size of those text in a particular image. That is a simple definition of word cloud. And now that is the quantification part. And that is why we are saying that the content analysis can be both qualitative and quantitative. So I hope that will be clear. Let's move to the next slide. Type of content analysis, conceptual analysis, and relational analysis. As the name suggests, the conceptual analysis focuses on identifying and quantifying the presence of specific concept in the text. And the relational analysis will examine the relation between those concepts within the text. You first find the concepts and then relationship between those concepts. The simple context analysis will be, suppose someone is written a statement. Now you have to do the kind of content analysis on that particular content, statement to understand whether that statement is positive, negative, or neutral. That will first identify those concepts and then find the relationship between that. कि ये कौन से categories में आ रहा है? Are they similar to the previous coded qualitative data? Will it comes under negative? Are there any negative term in that? The problem with content analysis is that sometimes it will fail to understand the sarcastic statements. And nowadays we have a lot of predefined R packages which can handle or find the sentiment of those statement also, whether the sentiment is positive, negative, neutral, or sarcastic. Okay. Or let's do statement is not that important. वो दो बार repeat भी हो गया for some reason. Now these are the steps which we are going to kind of discuss in detail. You define the research question. Take it. Any fundamental step in any type of research. The most important part, you have to define the research question because that is going to guide the entire analysis process. And we know about research problem. It must be specific, focused, so as to find the solution or to answer that particular question. We know I'm not going to discuss, like I will give an example of broad question. How is the environment discussed in the news? I'm just giving an example of two broader question. How is the environment discussed in the news? That can be an example of a very broad question, which you should avoid in any type of research. Or I can use a focus question, like, are the new channel discussing about climate change or pollution or deforestation or the carbon footprint? Those type of questions will be focus question, which you should use in your research. So the first step is sorry, define the research problem. Second one is select the sample, determine the data you will analyze. How do you select the sample here? In quantitative research, we know, right? There are different sampling techniques: probabilistic, non-probabilistic. You will use simple random, stratified, clustering, snowball, convenience, whatever it may be. How do we decide the sampling here? Can anyone give the example of some sample? The second step of content analysis is selecting the sample. How do we select sample in qualitative analysis? Just give me an example. The simple of the simplest example can be, suppose you are doing a research on a political party. What you can do, you can collect data from all the news articles and the news articles become your sample. Clear? Then you will say, okay, fine, I will use the online archive of the news articles and my data will be collection of news article on this particular topic in last 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, and my sample size is these many articles. Or you can crawl data from social media. Suppose I'm crawling data from Twitter using Twitter API. Whatever content is made using particular hashtag, I'm crawling all those tweets and analyzing those tweets. Do you know how much time it will take to kind of, it will hardly take 10 minutes using R only or Python. You need not to do anything. You just have to follow, break the barrier, connect with the Twitter API, create a Twitter developer account, and start crawling based on different criteria, based on hashtag, based on mention a particular word. You can start crawling all the tweets, or free account have limited access. You have to pay something if you want to crawl huge amount of tweets. That is how it helps you. Then you will start analyzing, and that will become a sample. And then come the define the unit of analysis. Third stage. Now unit of analysis. What will be unit of analysis in this particular case? We have text. The unit of analysis can be word, phrase, sentence, paragraph, or the theme, right? Which particular element of the text you have or qualitative data you are going to code, you will define that in this particular step. Okay? Like in newspaper, the article example I gave, you can use sentence as your primary unit of analysis, right? And then you will use theme to understand the environmental issues they're discussing in the those particular news article. Achha, we were talking about the political issue. So you can use the theme like which political issue is being discussed, unemployment, kind of inflation, low salary, or accident, or negligence by some particular department of the government. You can kind of use theme also kind to analyze the sentences. Okay, most of the people, then you will use, you can quantify, okay, majority of people or 40% of the people are discussing about unemployment. So the government of India should kind of put in effort to bring down the unemployment level. Look at the hashtag, crawl the data, and your unit of analysis is sentence, or it can be theme, and then based on the theme, you will decide your further analysis, which is the fourth step. You develop a coding scheme. This we have discussed the coding, right? Coding kind of give you a structure way of categorizing your content. You categorize your content. And the first type of analysis also. It should be mutually exclusive and exhaustive. Exhaustive क्यों? Exhaustive to well enough to capture all the relevant aspect of your data. अगर वो exhaustive नहीं होगा, तो you may miss some of the aspect in your data, some of the theme or the ideas in your data. Generally, what happens to develop a coding scheme? You develop an initial code, like we did in the example we discussed, and then you refine them after implementing those code on a subset of data. Looking at one, two a sentence, you develop a theme, code, apply that code on the subset of data, and then refine it. That should be clear to all of you. And the next step, step 5 is to code the actual data. You have to systematically apply the coding scheme you have developed. As I have said, you can use predefined code also. You need not to develop any code itself. It has, the coding has to be done systematically. It is very important. And the coding should be consistent also. Not like you use some code for similar sentence, but you skip those for a sentence similar to that particular sentence. If your unit of analysis is sentence. The step 6 is analyze the data, and then you identify pattern, frequency, relationship. We will use our example to identify frequencies and then create word cloud in content analysis part and draw conclusion. So what happens is once data is coded, you start to analyze the pattern. And this process might involve calculating the frequency of each code, how many times each code is getting repeated, identifying relationship between different codes. There can be relationship between the code you are using, or to look for trend over the period of time or across different part of your sample. You will look into the example. Okay. Interpret and report findings. So any research process will end up interpreting the analysis and reporting the finding. इस पे ज़्यादा डिस्कशन करने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. What are the advantages of content analysis? Unobtrusive method. You do not have to kind of interact with the participant. Okay. One second. एक second. Mhm. ठीक है. It can easily analyze large amount of text data. I myself I analyzed in one of my dissertation work, long back, kind of millions of tweet when there was no restriction on Twitter API. Now all the APIs have restriction how much data you can kind of crawl from the website or how many requests you can make. So anyway, allow for both qualitative and quantitative analysis. I have given an example how this content analysis allows for both qualitative and quantitative analysis. Qualitative is suppose you want to understand the sentiment of the statement. Your code unit of analysis is sentence, and for each sentence you are doing the sentiment analysis. Quantitative, if you are measuring the frequency of a particular word, a particular sentiment getting repeated. Suppose you did the sentiment analysis, qualitative analysis, and then said, okay, 30% of the comments made or statements, or comments made on a particular company social media page is negative, 20% are neutral, 50% are positive. That is what the quantification or quantification in content analysis come. Relatively inexpensive. बहुत कम मेहनत है. You don't have to go anywhere, collect the data online and just use it. Like I gave example of understanding the micro transaction done on the gaming platform. You just scroll the data and do the analysis, and you can do research in the field of economics itself. Apply a different analytical tool based on whatever research problem you are trying to address. What are the disadvantages of content analysis? It can be time consuming, especially for large data set. Subjectivity in coding can be challenged, and that will play a very important role. There will be subjectivity in coding. Subjectivity to understand, like the coding I do, you as a researcher will be completely different. And you may not be able to capture the nuances of meaning or context. You did the coding is not exhaustive. Your coding is missing some of the kind of sentiment in the text. Advantages. Okay, this is a discussion point I had kept in my slide, but मुझे लगता है कि आप लोग willing to discuss. If anyone want to discuss any of this topic, like or any example of research where content analysis be suitable method, forget our second question. If you have some say on like how you ensure the reliability of your coding, we'll discuss on that also. Can you think of any research problem where you will use content analysis? ठीक है. Let's take the example of political parties. Like you can do a content analysis or you need a qualitative data to understand how these political parties kind of frame their social media messages on different key issues. It can be unemployment, education, healthcare, economy, environment. All these different party kind of frame their social media messages. There you can use this qualitative data. And we can have a number of such examples. Okay. How can you kind of ensure the reliability of coding? Develop a clear, detailed coding manual. You need to kind of refine your code, do code training. Pilot testing is very important. You implement the coding on a small data set and then manually verify it whether this particular coding is missing some of the theme in the data. Is there any ambiguity or overlap, or it is missing some categories? So accordingly, you will kind of coding. Okay. Expert group discussion can be a part of improving the coding technique also. Let's move to the next slide. Okay. Thematic analysis. This particular method of qualitative analysis is used to identify, analyze, and interpret pattern of meaning, pattern of theme within qualitative data. It does not or may not go word by word. It helps you to identify, analyze, and interpret pattern. And thematic analysis are mostly qualitative or always qualitative, you can say. Purpose is to provide a rich and detailed account of the data, identifying recurring pattern of meaning across the data set. The focus is on identifying broader theme rather than just counting words or concept. So to our focus is to understand the broader theme. We may end up sometimes kind of random just do the counting of word concept. How many concepts are there? But in thematic analysis, we kind of try to understand the broader thing or pattern across the data set. Type of thematic analysis: inductive, deductive, semantic, latent. These are similar to what the coding techniques are. The first one is the theme emerges from the data itself without a predetermined coding frame or supervised learning. The theme emerges from the data itself. Deductive, the theme are identified based on the existing theories or prior research. Based on that, you kind of identify a theme. Semantic approach focus on the data. It is kind of the semi-automatic part. And this latent approach for underlying ideas and assumptions and interpretation within the data. This is when you need an in-depth analysis. You kind of manually go through the data, do in-depth analysis, interpret it. Especially suppose I am trying to find the sentiment of a sarcastic comment. So you have to go for this latent approach. सारे approach हम लोग जाएंगे नहीं. We look into or deductive approach in the hands-on. These are the steps in thematic analysis. Any idea who started this kind of thematic analysis? Who was the pioneer of this? ठीक, कोई बात नहीं। हम्म, The first step is familiarizing yourself with the data, just like transcribing audio recording, reading, rereading the data to get an overview. So kind of you go through the data to have better understanding. Then you generate initial code. You will say it is similar to content analysis itself. The coding interesting feature of the data in a systematic fashion across the entire data set, collating data relevant to each other. You first do all the interesting feature within the data and then collate those data, those code kind of those who are relating to each other. Search for theme, group code together into potential theme based on shared meaning. So you kind of bring together few codes and kind of create a theme out of them. Then you review those themes, check in the theme work in relation to the coded extract, level 1 and level 2. These levels are like level 2 is like entire data. Generally, when you use NVivo for this thematic analysis, there this level 1, level 2 concepts are used. But whatever code you have extracted, and then whether that theme is kind of working on the entire data set is not, that is what the review means. And then generating a thematic kind of map of the analysis. So when you use NVivo, it kind of helps you like drag and drop. Bring in your data, drop it, go through the text, generate some initial code, NVivo will help you find the themes, and then it will automatically review the theme for you. Or you can intervene also. Defining and naming the themes. Now you kind of define those themes. आपने बोला somebody is talking about, let's talk about the political thing. कि a particular party is using unemployment, then target the incumbent government. These are the code you will find in a different social media post, and then you bring a theme. Okay, fine. If somebody is using unemployment in their political social media post, and it is a negative sentiment statement, then they are targeting the government of incumbent government. That is how you will kind of bring together few quotes. Okay, these quotes together will mean something. This is a theme. So you define and name those things. And then kind of the final opportunity of any analysis is then producing the report. You define, name the theme, and you will then produce a scholarly report based on those findings. What are the advantages of thematic analysis? I'm not asking for any doubt because no one is asking any doubt. Flexible and adaptable to different types of qualitative data, much more flexible compared to content analysis. Relatively easy to learn and apply. हो गया ना? Can provide rich and detailed insight into complex issues, and it is useful to identify both explicit and implicit meaning. Generally, in context analysis, we can only discover, not restricted to explicit meaning. For the implicit meaning, you have thematic analysis. Disadvantage of thematic analysis can be subjective again, because you are kind of bringing together few codes to build a theme out of that. And the identification of theme can be influenced by the researcher perspective. As I was saying, the theme you are kind of identifying will be influenced by your researcher perspective. I may look at few quote and bring them together and say, okay, fine, this is my understanding, that is what happening. The other researcher will look at it differently. A risk of losing the nuances of individual data item when focusing on broader thing. So when we start looking at the broader thing, what will happen? Suppose I will give you a simple example. Someone was a government of India have hired some analytical team or company to do these analysis. Now that company kind of build the theme. Okay, these code, and the comment is negative against the government. Completely ignore the statement. But that particular kind of statement or individual item in your data set can be a constructive criticism, which would have helped the government to identify कि अच्छा ये करना भी better हो सकता है. We can kind of address the issue in this way. So you will lose the kind of nuances of individual data when you start focusing on the broader thing. Okay, it can be time consuming also, especially for large data set. ठीक है. चलिए फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन डिस्कस नहीं करेंगे. हाउ डू यू डिसाइड वेदर व्हेन अ ग्रुप ऑफ कोड constitute a thing? हाँ. Can you answer the second question? How do you decide when a group of code constitute a theme?
Sir, for that, I think like a pre-specified number of codes that we have to first assign to a theme. Like in that way, I mean, I'm thinking in that way. So can we like a theme like let's say beauty or beautiful? To a theme like beautiful or beauty, we can assign certain codes that are extracted from the literatures or that particular thing. So in that way, can we assign like
क्या?
minimum number of codes that is user specific? What I'm trying to say is that user specific.
Correct, correct, correct. So what happened? We have inductive and deductive way of assigning the theme.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
there
sir.
existing theory you are using, as you said, based on that you will say, okay, that is how we are going to define the beauty. So if those codes are there in my particular statement, text, image, video, I will say, okay, this particular thing represents beauty. Suppose I am analyzing different images and I am giving code to all the images. And I'm using pre-existing theory. Or I can build my own kind of coding method. For the data
Yes,
itself,
yes, sir.
I will
Fair
assign
enough.
code, and based on the frequency of or the number of occurrence, I will say, okay, fine, these codes are coming together, these are specifying this particular thing. That can also happen. Okay. Okay.
One more thing, sir, I want to ask you, like inductive and deductive, like your first question, when might we you choose an inductive approach over a deductive? I mean, what could be the answer? Like I was thinking from that time, like inductive approach. So far, my information is concerned, like my knowledge is concerned, like we would like to choose, or it is better to choose inductive approach when uh, in case of scientific study, like in case of scientific study which are already proven,
Mhm.
so there it is better to use inductive rather than deductive. I mean, please help me in if I'm correct or not, sir. Especially whenever we are dealing with scientific documents or we are trying to create themes based on scientific which are already proved. So their inductive approach is working or works better than deductive approach, because there the data are already there that are, I mean, inductive approach is data driven. uh,
Data driven.
yes sir, deductive approach is theory based, so theory is yet to be proved in, I mean, empirically we have to prove the theories, but in case of inductive approach the data are already there, I mean experimental data for example.
Mhm.
So in that case, can we use inductive approach like?
See, I will give you, there are different scenario, different reasons where you will use inductive, deductive based on the situation. The
Yeah, sure.
simple situation will be if your data is very limited, or if your data is very, like is in huge number, you cannot use the inductive. It will be difficult for you to use the inductive method. Suppose you are analyzing the interview of, or I am analyzing the interview of 50 faculty, those who have attended this FDP. Now, instead of going for deductive, I will simply stick with the inductive. I'll go through the transcript of all the interviews
Yes,
and
sir.
kind of start coding, analyze, and then find the thing. And then, if I am kind of, suppose BPUT have collected, done interview with, or have some qualitative data of all the faculties. Now, there, this inductive approach will not be, it will be practical possible, but not practical.
Yes, yes, sir.
So, from the data itself, in the first case, I'm trying to categorize faculty, suppose as a VPUT. I will say, okay, these are the data, quality data of the faculties. If these things are there, these faculties are good with research, these faculties are good with teaching, these faculties are good with administrative work. I can kind of put them into different kind of themes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Welcome. Okay. Next. ठीक है, demystifying the jargon, thematic analysis, content analysis. ये slide आप चली जाएगा. You will have a lot of doubt here. Even if I was trying to build the slide to demystify all this jargon, I myself is not convinced. So go through this particular slide. We will jump to the hands-on knowledge session. So we had fair discussion on this content analysis, thematic analysis. Who were the pioneer of this uh, thematic analysis? Okay, I had written somewhere. Brown and some Clark, huh? Brown and Clark, six-phase framework. So they were the pioneer of this thematic analysis. In the last slide, you will see there are a lot of reference to some thematic analysis links जिनको डिटेल्स में पढ़ना है ना these the first one, the Brown and Clark, this particular link will help you a lot. These are their seminal paper, but they have a dedicated website where kind of they themselves have linked their own work and the other good work in the thematic analysis. So whoever want to do research in thematic analysis, do go through this Brown and Clark's website. And there are some other content analysis things. Those are into content analysis. Thoda, if you want to explore in the R, these are the few links to explore these uh, tidy
Sir,
text mining things. Uh,
can you please share this particular page? I mean, if you
I will
don't
share
mind.
the slide itself. I will
Yeah,
ask.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that would be better. I mean, I would request the organizer to please share this slide at the end of this
mhm.
sessions.
Okay, I will ask Ms. Prithvi to share the slide.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Introduction to table. I will request everyone to kindly open their RStudio. By the time I should have sent this code long back. Hold on. Well, I will send the complete code as well. I'm sending the complete code for content analysis in the text chat box. You can copy and paste on the RStudio. So I have to save the RStudio now. No? So those who have not installed the packages, kindly run this first line. See, when we use hash something in a single line, we write something in the R or RStudio. Those are treated as comment. Those do not get executed. So in the first line, hashtag or hash install necessary R package are just comment. The next line is to install the packages. Kindly install those packages when by the time I will discuss about tables. So what is tables? Table is it's kind of a well organized Excel spreadsheet in R. It is one of the most modern kind of data of variables or data storing unit in the R. It keeps your data clean and readable, and it works well with or seamlessly with most of the text analysis packages like tidy text in R. And it also print neatly in the R studios, unlike messy default tables. Suppose I have few columns in my data. First one is suppose name of the customer. Second one is the comment made on the open-ended question. I had taken feedback from the consumer. Suppose I had 5 open-ended questions. So I will have 5 column of data for each consumer, their name or some identification number, and 5 column for five the answer they had given for the open-ended questions. Now that data would not look good in the forget about Excel in the RStudio itself. So this table helps you to kind of organize those data in a much more visible way. I will just show you the example of table. No need to uh, run those codes for you. Once I've gone through the table, I will show you or discuss about the content analysis. So this tidyverse library I have loaded, and what I'm doing here is uh, I'm creating a table manually. Okay. As simple as what is happening here is no. Just look at these text. I'm saying I will have 3 data, 1, 2, 3, and the text in those will be these. I feel overwhelmed by climate change. We need policy change urgently. Individual action matter too. So these are suppose 3 open-ended questions answer I have stored here. These are just for example. The open-ended question answer may not be just of one line or half of the line. It can be a full paragraph. Just for the example, I've taken it here. Now I've given the code all itself here. The emotion, first one is talking about I feel overwhelmed, or policy, individual actions. I have created a code itself. Now if I run this, what will happen? A title will be created. If I print the table, this is how the data will look like. Participant 1, 2, 3, their code and the code. And it works well with the all the kind of text mining packages we have in R. Now, table can store multiple code for the data also. For example, suppose I'm creating one more table where I have more than one code for the same data. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm splitting this table into separate row, and you can also do that if needed. So what has happened, I had two code per statement. Now what has happened, if you look at the output, I have created separate row for each code. And why we are doing it? It has different packages to analyze the data, this table. इतना important नहीं है अभी समझने के लिए how it works, and just giving you a brief go through. Okay, we did the splitting. No, analyze करेंगे frequency visualize, ठीक है. Okay, let's come to the content analysis वाला code. These are not important. Okay. I hope all of you have installed these packages.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So I'm going to load this library. The code is there with you. If you are getting any error, you can ask me. I will let you go through the code and explain you what is happening there. Again, we discussed about the table. I'm creating a table. The table is getting stored with a name, text data. I have 4 lines. The text are these. I have not coded the data here. What is happening? This is creating a table. Table is a function. It is creating a table. The size is a 4. And text are these. So this particular statement will create a table. And the table will be stored with the name text data. Now, there are a lot of data here in my table. I will clean it. I will run the code again. If you look at the environment, there is one text data is here for observation of 2 variables. So once I run this get created. If I clean the data again, nothing will be there. If I print text data, it will say error object text data not found. So this one is creating an object. So we have only 2 things in R or any programming language, the variable or the functions. Sometimes this complex variable we call object also. So we can interchangeably you can use variable or object. Now this is created with for observation. Now look at the object of variable, how it looks. This is how this particular table looks right now. So we have not done any coding of this table or this particular data. We have only 4 observation. You can have lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakh observation, and the table can be created. You can crawl the data, use the CSV file, you can read it. We have seen how to read files, and we can create table out of that with just these functions. We don't have to manually write these things. The table function will.
I have one question in here.
Yes, yes.
Sir, here R is considering that line column as one of the variables. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So 2 variables, line is one and character like text is another column. These are the
Yes,
2 variables.
2
Okay,
variables.
got it, sir.
So I have created this table manually. You can collect the data, read it here using the similar read command we did here when we were analyzing this churn wala data. And then you can use the table functions to convert that into a table. We have created table, a smaller table for our understanding. Now, like I have commented these kind of code into a comments. If you are using external CSV file, you can uncomment it, read a CSV file, use the table function like this, and that file will be converted into table. Now you can use any R function. Your data preparation work is completed here. Now you can use any packages or this content analysis packages. They are limited content analysis packages as they are unlimited, and you could just search as per requirement to what you want to do with those data. Now, if that is clear, we will move ahead. Now, let's look into tokenization. What we are doing here is we are breaking the sentences into individual words. So we have the text data. We are converting that into single word. Now see, if I run this code, what will happen? These two lines together is doing the tokenization of this text data, whatever is stored there. And that tokenized data is stored in tidy data. Now look at this tidy data, how it looks. So what happened? Okay. The first statement was the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So what is happening? The first line or the first observation is getting divided into single, a tokenized. But it retaining the observation number. One ka the, one ka quick, one ka brown. These are not the complete data itself. It was initial 10 observations are there. Whenever we use the print method on an object, they kind of display the initial few lines. You can see 20 more rows are there. So the tokenization happened here. If I want to view that object, I can do two things. I can use the view command or simply click here in the environment. I can click here. What will happen? It will open this tidy data wala object. What command is run here? See, automatically the view command, view bracket start, bracket close, bracket के अंदर में I have sent an argument. The argument is tidy underscore data. I can see the complete data here, the tokenized data. For observation, tokenized. Suppose you have 1 lakh observation, you will have 4 lakh, 5 lakh, 20 lakh kind of tokenized data here. Why we are doing this tokenization? Because we want to use some content analysis packages or functions. Now comes the removing the stop words. So we need to remove these and all the other stop words if they are there, is, are, am, because those are not important when we are doing this particular content analysis. Now, what is happening? There are some inbuilt stop words predefined. So this data function is calling that stop words. When I run this data stop words, you will see in the environment section, I have a new this data or object which has 1149 observation of two variables. If I open it, I can see these are collection of some stop words with some lexicon. अभी जाएंगे नहीं lexicon के ऊपर. So these are collection of some stop words which we will remove from those tokenized data or tokenized object. Right? So these functions, these two lines will remove the stop word from your tidy data. So I will run this particular code. I will again print the tidy data. Now if you look at the output, all the stop words have gone from this tokenized data. Clear to all of you? यहाँ तक अगर किसी को प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है तो बताइए, और आई विल गो अहेड देन इफ आई एम नॉट गेटिंग एनी रिस्पॉन्स. आपकी खामोशी में मैं हाथ ढूंढ लूंगा. ठीक है. इफ नो वन इज सेइंग एनीथिंग, आई विल जस्ट चेक द चैट बॉक्स वंस. सो आई होप एवरीथिंग इज फाइन टिल हियर. ठीक है. नथिंग इज देयर. Okay. Now I'm going to calculate the frequency of all the words. So, and I will store that in the another variable or object named word count. And what I am doing, I am passing this tidy data to be used as source for that word count. This count function will count the word, and it will do the sorting also. The first argument is to count the word. Second argument is any statement we pass inside the function is kind of sorry, we call them arguments. Now if I run this code, again you will see a new word count object is created here, a word count data object which has 15 observation of 2 variables. देखते हैं वो 2 variables क्या है. I will print the word count. So we will look at this thing, the output here. So I have all the words and I have their counts. Right? We have limited words here. It's easily visible. We would have done it manually, but that is not possible when data is large. Now look at some basic visualization we do with such word count. Okay. We'll plot the bar chart. This single statement, I am passing the word count. The rest of the thing you can use for any type of data you have used. We are using top 10. This particular statement is making sure top 10. These are the order, इसका जरूरत नहीं है. What are the use of these? Still blue failure, no importance. X lab, the label I'm using for the x-axis. Here we are using null. Pot flip, we are flipping the x and y axis. It is also not important for you to understand. One thing you have to understand, this plus sign means I am writing something below that particular line. Generally, the code will be in a single line. These are similarly used for different purposes. Like there is extension that you can understand later. You will get confused now. Now the whole command, agar suppose you have a word count data file, you just pass it like this here. If you want the top 10, top 15, 20, you change this particular variable. If you want to change the title, you can change this. The rest of thing, you can keep it like that. And this is how this particular basic visualization will look like. So we can visualize that. In all the text, we had dog is being repeated the highest time, then cat, and rest of them are like repeated only once. Other frequency is only one. So this will help you to visualize things. Suppose I gave the example of the social media post by different political parties. If I do the analysis, I will get to know, okay, fine, which party is using which particular term in their social media post. I can kind of retrieve last 1 year post from a particular political party and can do this analysis and easily get the top 10 without doing anything. I just have to collect the data, scroll it, put it in a file, use the tidy function, make the frequency. This code will work like that only, no need to do anything. The data cleaning part, थोड़ा बहुत आपको सीखना पड़ेगा, जो we did in this particular file. The unnecessary column you will drop simply. That dropping can happen. With code is there in that particular file. Now, exploring specific keyword. Now, Suppose I'm trying to explore this particular specific keyword dog. Okay. Now I have stored dog in the variable keyword. Okay. I'm trying to explore dog. I stored that in a variable. I should have simply passed dog, but chalo theek hai. Now, again, one variable is there. I'm defining one variable, dog mention. What I'm storing there, एक तो I'm passing the tidy data, the tokenized data. Then I'm using filter that based on the word, storing keyword, do the count, and count should be here. So I'm actually this particular line of code is counting the number of times this particular keyword or code, if I'm using, has been repeated. And this particular print function helps you to print something on the console or the output device. So this will print the keyword, the word, I have stored dog, so the keyword will replace with dog. The word dog appears, dog mentions 3, 4, 5, and times will be printed as it is. So what happens is anything inside double quote are treated as text. Anything outside double quote will be treated as either a variable or a function. Anything you keep inside double or single quote will be considered as text in most of the languages, programming languages. So once I run this code, what will happen? If you look at the console, for us, this is our output device here. The word dog appears 3 times. So this is how also, if you don't want to see the top 10 frequent word, if you want to explore a particular kind of keyword, this is how you can do. Now we will generate the word cloud. This particular line is not important to understand. This line is important to create your own word cloud. Now we have seen, we have created this word counts, right? We are assigning this frequency as word count. For our image, we are saying the minimum frequency is 1, maximum word will be 100. So anything below frequency 1 will not be included in my word cloud, and the maximum word will there in my word cloud will be 100. That is what these two lines are saying. So suppose you want something above the frequency of 1 or 5 or 10, depending on how your data is. That is what you want here, and the maximum word. Okay, you can change based on your requirement. So if we run this, this is how, or this is what you will get. And you would have seen word cloud like this. This is a very simple example I have taken. You can do that with any data or data of any size. So we can see dog is in the middle in the bigger font size. That means it has been repeated highest, then cat, and the rest of them are of equal size because they have been repeated only once. If I increase the frequency, suppose the minimum frequency to 2, what will happen? I will have only 2 values here. Because rest of the frequencies are of size 2 only. Did I get any? Yeah, you can go ahead, Om Prakash Satyabiji. If you want to say something, you can go ahead, please. I think mics are open for everyone. Take care. Go ahead. I think by mistake you have pressed the raise.
Sir, in this regard, I do have one question.
Please go ahead.
What inference can we draw at this moment of time if we are keeping this minimum frequency as 2, like it is showing cat and dog? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, what general inference we can draw from those lines are not there. Now only these words are visible to us, only cat and dog.
Mhm.
So,
So the inference is nothing. See, in any content analysis, you as a researcher, I will take the example of this political post on the social media. Now you will get to know, okay, fine. These are the two most commonly used word, and now you're saying that the inference, like what change happened. Like in the previous example, there were a lot of other words, and now there are only two, right? That inference you're talking about, I hope.
no,
Okay,
I mean to,
as a research,
sir, my question is that just by having a look at these two words, I mean,
uh,
can we, I mean, guess that what is going behind that scene? Like from what are the lines that these particular two words are related to? Like in what context these two
no, no,
words
no,
are
no, no,
related?
no, no, no. I just gave you an example of content analysis. You
Okay,
are just getting an idea which words are being majorly talked about. So the content analysis generally happens word by word. You do the
right.
word analysis. Now you have an idea as a researcher, majority of people are talking about these things. Suppose these word cloud you will see being used by uh, most of the report published by the companies. Like
Okay.
Google will publish word cloud at the end of a year. The most searched word will be like in the bigger front, and the rest of them will
Yes,
be in the
yes.
smaller front. So these are kind of a report generation, a basic understanding of the data or the things people are talking about or the things being searched. Like recently, I was going through the blueprint of a particular company. They discussed me what are uh, the major area in which the job creation will happen and what the experts are talking. So instead of me going through all the text or generalizing, okay, fine, they are talking about these things, I will just kind of get the data. Instead of me going through all the text, I did the tokenization of the data. I created a word cloud. Even I didn't go through the those graph itself.
Okay, sir.
So the
Okay, sir.
data is
Fair enough.
who
Fair
I
enough.
it will help you to kind
Thank
of
you, sir.
in those situations. ठीक है, the second code is exactly same. वही करेगा ना. ठीक है, forgot about this code. I don't know why I've included it here. To arraying function only defined on a data file with all numerical available. अच्छा 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 ठीक है, forget about this. Now we have seen a simple example of content analysis. It's not limited to this. It is a very basic example of doing content analysis using R. Okay. Uh, let's look at an example of thematic analysis also. So these library or packages you would have already loaded, but anyway, acha, I have not given you this code. I'm sending these codes on the chat. Is there any limitation to what I can send here on the chat?
Sir, instead of it, I mean, if you could share the entire R file through that,
I will share
that
the entire file. I
yeah,
cannot
yeah,
share the
that
file
would be
here
better.
on chat. I can send it later. Anyway, I
Yes,
will
sir.
make.
Yes, sir. That would be better, I think.
I will send the complete R file and everything.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I will load the packages. It's not going on the chat. आप लोगों ने बताया भी नहीं last time also. Uh, only few line of the code has been posted there in the chat box. ठीक है. Anyway, I will make you go through this. I'm just loading these packages to my current session. This library function do that. Now we have similar example table. I will do one thing. I will clear my environment so as there is no class between the previous thing I run. What I have done, I have removed every variable from my current session. Nothing is there. So I will create a new data, kind of variable, data variable, where I will be storing these 4 lines of observation. Okay. I'll clear the plot. Now I'm loading the stop words also because I need to remove the stop words, or I will use in somewhere. We will see. These are basic text preparation. What is happening here? Okay. I am using the test data, creating a new data. I'm giving this name. It is nothing but a name, tidy data thematic, to have an understanding of what this particular object is storing. So I'm giving the name of the object, new object. I'm creating a new object, assigning it to text data. Don't get confused. This particular is just line is same as equal to. I'm assigning that to this value. This object I'm creating now. What I'm assigning using the text data. What is text data? I've just created a text data with these 4 lines. Okay. So the way I had done the tokenization in the previous example, I'm doing exactly same here, and I am anti-joining the stop words. Okay, bywords. You can simply use this example, send your data to basically prepare any data file after reading to a specific file, text data file, to do the basic preparation of the data. So I will run the code. You just have to change this file, or you need not to change anything here. You just read the file to this particular variable. Now I will create the tidy data thematic, how it looks like. So the tokenization, everything what we did in the last example is done here in this single statement only, or single line of code. These are, you can call it I'm calling it a single line of code because it is single code only. This makes sure that it wait for the next line command. इसका कोई मतलब नहीं है, but ठीक है. If I run this, suppose I run this, I will show you something. जरूरत नहीं time waste होगा, रहने दीजिए. Now I know कि it did everything with a single command. Tokenization happened, the stop word have been removed. Now my data is ready for different thing. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm looking for animal related term, fox, dog, and cat. Like I'm trying to do some grouping of the text based on the theme. I'm looking for animal related word in the whole text. Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a list and storing it in a variable name or object name animal words. So you will see animal words in the right hand environment side has been created. Character type, name, fox, dog, and cat. Now in the whole database or the tidy data thematic which I have created, I will count how often each word appear per line instead of just listing. So this function what I'm passing this tidy data thematic, the animal word object I created, this one I created doing the tokenization, removing the stop words, and rest of the thing you need not to change anything when you are using this particular animal code, where I'm storing animal mention and I'm printing that. So once I run this and print the animal mention, now what will happen? I'm getting the count of the mention of everything. So uses a dog one यहाँ पे दिखा रहा है फिर dog one यहाँ पे दिखा रहा है. It is based on the first observation. The dog has been mentioned once. In the first observation, fox is also mentioned one. In the second observation, cat is mentioned one. Dog is mentioned once. Similarly, third observation, only cat is mentioned, and that too only once. In fourth observation, only dog is mentioned, and that is only once. You don't have any other data. Now, what happened here is you kind of went through your data, looked for unvalidated word, and got the count like कितने बार वो आ रहा है. In similar way, suppose you are trying to find a theme like action related thing. So I can create another action word. I'm just giving a name action words. I'm keeping some words here and I will go through the whole database and then look for action related word. I have stored that in the variable action mentioned and I'll print that. So what I am doing here in the previous example, I was printing those tidy data thematic wala jahan pe the word were coming. Here what I am doing, I am printing the complete sentence where the action word will there. For example, jumps, barked, sat, also bird is there, walker, no, dog walker. I was looking for the action related word and based on the theme, I kind of extracted, okay, 4 sentences are there where the action word have been talked. What I could have done here also, I would have stored these in a new way, kind of variable or object. Not variable, I will say object. And then I would have found, okay, fine. In these many objects, action words are there. In these many objects, or social media post, unemployment is there. In these many social media posts, constitution is there. With this simple code, you will get the idea. And why we are doing it? These qualitative analysis may help you to build some hypothesis, which you will kind of try to solve using qualitative data. Sorry, quantitative data. So these qualitative analysis will help you to build the hypothesis also, as we were discussing earlier. So sometimes you will say, why I'm doing this qualitative analysis? Okay, you're doing this qualitative analysis to find some pattern. You cannot scroll through 20,000, 40,000, 1 lakh line of statement on social media. Every day, almost lakhs of statement or comments will be made on social media. I cannot go through so many comments on a particular hashtag to understand what is happening there. I will get a fair idea from the Twitter itself. But if I want to deep dive into that, based on certain criteria, I want to know how many are those who are kind of uh, abusing particular thing they are talking about these particular theme. Suppose something happened and people started abusing the government. You want to know, okay, how many of them are talking about unemployment. I want to concentrate on that. And then you can continue with the further kind of, you can build some words related to the near to the unemployment theme. Use this to identify the sentences or the comments on the social media made every day based on those theme. Okay? So here we identified the word where these action terms or animal mentioned were there. These code will kind of detect the sentence containing the action related word. Okay, now if you look at the original text data, I will print the text data. I don't have any coding here. Now, you can do manual coding or initial coding, which we use the example like this. Okay? If there is a mention of fox and dog, animal mention. Achha, you have another session after this.
Yes, sir.
Achha, okay. Then I will quickly run all these things and give me a minute. So these line are coding the data based on certain criteria I have mentioned. If I look at the coded data, if fox and dogs are mentioned, so initial coding in animal mentioned, feline mentioned, animal mentioned. Based on that, I am getting this output. कोई नहीं. I wanted to show quartile and everything. चलिए. Okay, ये parametric test के भी part थे मेरे पास to do the correlation and integration, how to do modeling. That was much more interesting. I thought it will finish within 2 hours, but I will share all these R file and the presentation with you all. चलिए, thank you everyone. That's all from my side.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Anybody is having any query? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your views on qualitative analysis, qualitative and quantitative differentiation, and you very nicely explained on the coding approach and the content analysis. You have also cleared the doubt of Manik Dey, sir. So thank you, sir. From thank you all. So now we are having
Yeah,
the lunch session at 3:30 p.m. We are going to start our next session by Dr. Chandrakant Sahu, sir. So may I request all to join at the proper time at 3:30 p.m. Thank you all. So please send your RF file.